Mr. Curry?
Frank, or saying my name. Here. Losing my mind.
Mr. Cozy?
Here.
Mr. Steiger? Here. Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Rust?
Here. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the meeting of February 27, 2023. So moved. Second. The motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. 6-0. Mr. Lauer. Next item is special reports. Peters Township's Park and Recreation Department.
Am I supposed to fill this out or no?
I think we know you.
Okay. I'm Katie Mucci on the Parks and Rec Board. So this last quarter, we had a reorganization meeting. Jeff Crummy is the chairman and Ed Rafferty is our vice chairman. Sam Perlmutter was nominated and accepted the yes position. We've discussed the Rolling Hills. We had a community member come to ask us about the aquatics facility and also inquiring about racket sports facilities involved in the master plan. We've met with people of the Football Association. We received their clearances at the February meeting.
Can we applaud?
Sure, if you'd like to applaud, please.
Finally.
The vote was taken and it's recommended to council to fine the Football Association $500 plus suspend the president of the association and put the association on probation for the rest of the 2023 season. Recommended to council to accept the $1,250 that was proposed by them at the December meeting, and we're just waiting to figure all that stuff out still. Lights fees, there was a recommendation to change the fee schedule to allow a charge of $75 per event per night for turning on the lights at the fields. And then we met with Cheer. Cheer came to our last meeting, requested a fee increase, and that was voted on and passed. And they requested a competition team, sort of like travel. But no, we passed that, but with no guarantee for facilities because that does require a separate facility different than regular rec cheer. There are issues to be they brought up some issues, and the board encouraged them to discuss their issues at their meetings first before bringing them to Parks and Rec Board. And there was also a request for regular Sunday practices starting in the morning, and that was rejected by the board. And now you are caught up.
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the regular Sunday practices for where? For what?
Before noon on Sunday. They requested to have, I think, an 8:30 a.m. practice regularly every Sunday.
And who is that? What sport?
Oh, cheer.
Cheer. Okay.
Sorry, I was still under the cheer category.
And is that because of staffing?
They were requesting that the Sunday 8:30 start because that was the only available facility for the competitive cheer. What had that opening at this point in the season.
And you declined it because of what? I'm just curious.
Because of the rule that we can't have practices or anything on Sundays before noon.
And that applies to all sports. That's been a long-standing policy that council set, is that Sunday morning should be reserved for families, and none of the sports are out before noon on Sunday.
Anybody else?
Any questions from council? Nope.
No, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is discussion concerning Rolling Hills Park Master Plan. Mr. Lauer.
Yes. As we had indicated previously, the master plan needs to be updated, and the question, I guess, for council to decide is what approach you want to take with that. The reason why the plan something needs to be done with the plan is that when the phase one was constructed, the locations of these drives are not where they're shown on the original master plan. And the reason why that was the case is that the master plan did not assume the relocation of the East McMurray Road, which pushed East McMurray Road onto this property, which caused this lower entrance to actually be moved. And when that was moved, the other thing that was, it was moved up into the property. The other thing that happened was originally the plan called for the maintenance facility to be in this location, and it's not. It's been moved to the back of the facility. So instead of being up front here, it's actually located back here. So what needs to happen at a minimum is that we need to go back and look at the plan in terms of how those road networks operate. When in the docket, I provide you some background information with regard to how we ended up with the plan that we have and the facilities inside of it. I think the thing that the committee and the community got right was to try to develop a park that had facilities that were not a duplicate of what can be found in other parks, whether it's Peterswood Park or Peters Lake Park. And so if you go through the facilities described in the plan, that's exactly what you see. You see basketball courts, you see deck hockey, you see a expanded racket sports area, you see a nature center, you see a BMX, a mountain bike trail to be built. I still think that makes sense, and if that's the case, the way I would recommend that we go forward is it's more of an engineering study than it is a creative study. Having said that, if what council believes that we ought to be doing at this time is an entirely different set of activities in here, I would suggest you need to go back to the master plan process and form a committee and get public input as to what needs to be incorporated in the park. But personally, I really do think what's out there is more of an engineering problem than it is a planning problem. The one thing that we know for sure is this parking lot that is designed to service the Great Lawn and the PIC facilities needs to be expanded. The parking lot that there is right now is inadequate to be able to house even the picnic pavilions that are there right now. So,
Where, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
where on this map, where would the current playground and picnic lodge area be, like, on there? Is it where?
It's where it says Great Lawn.
That's where that is?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is still in that area?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that part hasn't been touched really.
Yeah, and really, I mean, the intent of the master plan was actually followed. What you have is this loop road that creates a spine upon which all the recreation facilities are to be hung off of. Now the question is, where exactly should some of those be moved to be able to accommodate the fact that the road's slightly different than what's on there?
Well, the road's only different at the bottom, correct? Up on top where letter A is, that is the actual location of the road, right?
Yes.
More or less,
Yes.
yeah.
So does it come in more?
What's that?
Is the alteration to the road more just on the bottom?
It's on the bottom, and
And
what
not
what
like
will
the outer
happen?
area?
Yeah, what will happen was where it says maintenance facility. These areas are now available, and
Who's got the pointer?
Yeah, you want to
Yeah.
do the pointer stuff?
Yeah.
The
that
road shown down
yeah.
here, it moved up slightly.
Yeah.
That's for the reasons Paul said, because East McMurray Road encroached onto the site, and the high school's southernmost drive came out up here, so we wanted to tee up that intersection. So that actually is more up here, and this maintenance facility got moved to this location over here. So the loop road is actually up here, and then it curves down, and it basically follows what is shown on the master plan from there on in. But,
Mark, is there even room now below the unnamed loop road for that dog park and everything that we planned there after those ponds and everything else.
We talked about that, because of the, we did the earthwork for the aquatic center, so this parking lot went in conjunction with the earthworks for the aquatic center. So there's a big flat area on the southern part of the loop road here that, presumably would be used for aquatic center parking if that someday develops. The one thing we did gain is where the loop road comes in up here now. If you look right to the right, there's a big flat area that wasn't really programmed on this drawing. We just kind of ended up with it through the process of development. So that would be one of the areas kind of where Paul indicated, just it's more of an engineering study. If we still want to program it for a dog park, I think there's the room there.
Or that adventure play area, or it could be,
right.
It could be a number of different things, but I think what we first have to do is get a handle on the parking lots in that roadway up above, and that's going to define the space that's available to be able to be used for all those different activities. And just like this hangs activities off of that spine, we'd be doing the same thing again.
Yeah, Paul, I asked to see this, obviously, and after looking at it, I personally don't think we need a whole redo. I think it's very well done throughout, and obviously there's a lot of time. My only comment was just would be, I don't think one basketball court's enough. I would do 3 or 4. If you go through Wilshire Park or even in St. Clair along McMurray, every nice day those courts are crowded.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I thought that it's very well laid out.
And I agree too that it's very well laid out. The only other thing, and I echo what Mr. Ross said about more basketball courts, but would there be anywhere for, like, being that this was a golf course and did have a nice terrain and everything, like anywhere for like a 3-putt or even like outside of that area?
Yeah, what's and I can't, it's not going to show here, but up above onto the school district property, there was a hole that was held onto.
Yeah.
And there's a group within the high school who wants to create, kind of a pitching area that's up there that would.
But it looked like it was supposed to be, done by the golf team.
I think it's golf team related.
I wasn't
Right,
sure
yes.
if that would be open. If they're doing it and paying for it, I highly doubt they're going to want the public.
Oh, no, the intention was to make this a public area.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, if that's a consensus of the council, I think the direction we'd like to go is to put together an RFP and approach some engineering companies to help us with resolving the engineering issues inside the facility. So,
Anybody in council have any objection to that?
No, none whatsoever. And I guess the only statement that I'll make is we're making decisions with regard to how this park is going to evolve. That has not eliminated the concept of an aquatic or pool facility. It's just that we've got to be prudent with regard to the steps that are necessary now for accommodating the road where it is. And we're going to continue to evaluate the development of the other facilities.
one thing you said, Mr. Lewis, back in a planning meeting was it took us 25 years to do Peters Wood Park. I think you're looking at the same kind of thing. I think you have a master plan that gives you a way to develop the project in a logical manner, but it's going to be time before it's complete.
All right, we'll move on to audience comments. This is the part of the meeting where any member of the audience can speak for up to 5 minutes on a non-agenda item. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak?
My name's Paul Watson, and I'm here about the zoning down here. And it's, I guess that's your the sanitation department. Everything marked down on 301 Sugar Camp. And I was up there 2 weeks ago, and I didn't get no answers. Here I am again, trying to find out what's going on there.
I spoke with the sanitary authority. They did put the green flags out.
They marked
by the
that
creek.
what for?
They couldn't even remember, to be honest with you. They said it's some ancient one call that was done. The only, my speculation
There
is...
was no one call done because they tore up my tracer wire, gas line, when they were doing site work on there. And they tore it up, and the gas company told me, they says, we see it all the time. This whole place should have been marked.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but I just know that I
Well,
called
I
the
do.
sanitary
This is why I'm
authority.
here.
And they said that it was an old one call, the flags can come out, so.
So there's nothing going to be going on there.
I didn't say that.
Well, I'm asking you.
I'm speculating that the reason they marked that in the first place is the property behind Mr. Watson in Quail Run. There's an application for development on that property, and typically when a surveyor comes in, one of the first things they do
But that
is
has
to
nothing
develop
to
a
do
plan.
with the survey. That's sanitation.
Well, it has everything to do with this. So they're going to mark where the sanitary sewers are on their survey.
So nothing's going to go in there.
I didn't say that. I said there was an application for
Well, what's
development
it
on that
for?
property.
But that's my property.
It's to identify existing utilities.
Right, but that's my property, right?
I don't know that.
So what kind of, this is what happened 2 weeks ago. No one had an answer for me.
No, I think he were given an answer, and the answer is,
What?
let me finish, that there was a one call that the sanitary authority responded to, that the flags can now be removed. There's a development that's occurring behind your property at the edge of Quail Run, and most likely that's what it's in reference to. Being able to identify where the line is so that, for instance, a surveyor would know where to mark that on a plan.
So how would I know what the development and plans are so it don't encroach and impede my property?
Well, that development plan is available, and if you want to stop by the building, we can show you that plan. It's in the process of being approved, but you're more than welcome to come in and see that.
Yeah, but I don't care what they want. I'm talking about what's going to happen with me.
Well, it's going to be on the property they own. This development's going to occur. Mr. Hoskins owns that piece of property right now. He has proposed a development that is a group of townhomes that will be constructed on that property. But if you stop in, you can either, you do better.
Right.
I guess you do better to ask
Right.
Seth, because Seth is going to have those
I've
plans.
called multiple times about stuff going on there because they would dump and they would push their debris over, and nothing was done. They says anytime you see trucks, bulldozers, anything like that, and nothing was done. They're terrible neighbors because you can see what's going on to my property. I got a little bit of woods that are still there until it gets bulldozered down or smashed because of.
But if you want to see that development, and Seth is probably better, but you can
Tomorrow
give Seth a call or me.
We have a meeting first thing tomorrow morning. I'll give you my card before we leave tonight. You can get in contact with me. We'll set up a meeting. You can come and take a look at it.
So nothing's going to be going on my property, right?
No, the development is not on your property.
Right, I know that. I'm talking about what the way it ties in.
Well, unless there's an easement across your property, they wouldn't have any right to
What's the
come.
easement?
Well, I'm saying, unless there's an easement, they wouldn't have any right to come across your property.
What is it, 15 feet? Ain't that what that is?
Well, you'd have to see the survey of your property to see what the
So
easement width is.
so why wasn't I ever contacted about this?
You would have been notified as part of our
No one notified
application
me
process.
with
We
nothing.
send out mailings to surrounding property owners. You are directly adjacent to it.
I know that, and I hadn't gotten nothing. I keep an eye on everything. I mean, right across the way there, we got garbage and stuff, debris, construction stuff blowing onto the road, especially the high winds.
Mr. Watson, here's my card. Give me a call tomorrow. We'll set up a time to sit down.
So anyways, getting back to that. No one has an answer for me?
Well, nobody can
What
do
it's
anything.
going to
Nobody
do?
can do anything on your property.
No one
Not
told
even
me
participate.
anything.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
No
check my
one-
mailing.
who
I
was
would
supposed
check
to
my
be-
mailing list.
statutory mailing or an ordinance mailing has to go to what?
Everyone within 600 feet.
Yeah, everyone
600
on
feet.
No
600
one
feet.
mailed me anything.
I'll check my mailing list. But I'm certain that you'd be
I'll
on it.
ask my neighbor next door, Dave, see if he got one.
Has that plan been before the planning commission yet, Seth? For the preliminary?
It's straight, it's a different zoning district, it's just straight approval, but it's coming to council relatively soon. But I sent those mailings out
We didn't get, I'll ask my neighbor, he'll be up here 2 weeks from now, and we'll see. Because we did not receive nothing.
We don't send those certified, I assume?
No.
I open all my mail. I
With
bring it
that,
all in every day.
with that many people, you couldn't send this out. Sorry, it'd be prohibited to send that out that way.
So how would I prove you didn't send it?
I have a mailing list that we keep in our records of
I
every
did not
project.
receive.
Give me the opportunity, please, to check my mailing list.
Fine, we'll be up here 2 weeks from, again, me and my neighbors, and they're going to probably explain it to you again, that we didn't receive nothing. You know? All right, I think that's about it for now. Thanks, gentlemen.
Anybody else want to speak?
Good evening, everyone. My name's Christina Fox-Grasso. I reside at 100 Walnut Drive in Venetia. I just wanted to take the opportunity to introduce myself to all of you as I'm running for Peters Township Magistrate. I wanted to let you know that I'm accessible for any questions, any comments that you have to make to me. My email address is foxgrasso4mdj@gmail.com. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm on the Youth Commission, so some of you I know are already familiar with me, but for those of you who are not, I encourage you to reach out and ask me any questions. So that's it. I just wanted to introduce myself.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all of your dedication to our community. Thanks, guys.
My name is John McCarthy. I live at 105 Greenbrier Drive. I thank you for funding the library. The library is worth every penny of funding it receives. I've lived in Peters Township 30 years. I remember walking into this building to pay taxes, ask questions, get help, pick up a dog license application. On February 28th, I stopped in and discovered a change. Residents are now kept at bay behind glass in an outer lobby. Upper St. Clair Municipal Building is wide open and inviting. You can speak to local offices face to face. I emailed my B Precinct council person who didn't respond until today at 6:30 p.m. I emailed my at-large council person who responded the following day. I don't understand the change with the building. Thank you.
Well, first of all, this change in terms of how people come into the building occurred when we did all the security improvements on the building. And it used to be, and Ms. McCarthy's right about this, that people would simply walk in the building and be in the hallways. And times have changed. And so what we do now is that when somebody comes to the building, they are greeted by the receptionist. And if they have reason to meet with someone, that person is called, and that person comes down and accompanies the person to wherever it is that meeting is to occur. I would disagree with you about the fact that the Upper St. Clair building is open, because I go over there on occasion and I sit in their lobby while somebody announces that I'm present, and somebody comes out to greet me and takes me to the office. So I think what we're doing is prudent, given the way things are. I don't think it's unreasonable for people to wait in the lobby while whoever they have a meeting with comes to greet them and accompany them in the building.
Well, Paul, I'll reinforce that, because I have the recollections of there being occasions where there were, I will call them strangers, wandering through the building that weren't identified with any particular mission, and that was also something that was becoming concerning. And,
well, I was in the Upper St. Clair Municipal Building, and I was talking face-to-face with people. And I stopped today in the lobby, and I had to wait 3 or 4 minutes until the secretary appeared. And when I stopped on the 28th, the temperature must have been 95 degrees in there, and I waited outside.
And that particular day was the day that it was 75 degrees in February, and I will guarantee you that that space was warm. Mr. Jaworski came down and met with Mr. McCarthy. They chose to meet outside.
That's nice.
Is there a plan? Did you have an appointment?
I did not have an appointment.
So you just came, did you come to just
Yeah,
look
he
around?
was very kind to make the time to come down. I thanked him.
Can you still
Oh, and
access the building
trust
through
me.
Can you still access the building through the elevator without going to the front desk?
It's a problem with the security of the building,
I mean,
yes.
doesn't that sort of defeat the whole purpose of having the
It's-
security? If I could just get on the elevator and go up one floor?
You're not helping us.
Yeah.
Hey, I might not be the brightest bulb in the bunch, but I'm sure there's people that could figure that out like I did.
But Ms. Shanafelt, the fact of the matter is, most people do not make appointments to come see us, nor do I have an expectation that you would.
I just didn't know if that was the issue. Like,
No,
That
no.
he had an appointment and wasn't being tended to, or...
And occasionally, people can't be met at just because they drop in because somebody's out of the building or they're involved in it. But
We even go through the same process when we come in. We don't just have free reign, you know, we wait for Cheryl to let us in and greet us. So you're not alone. I mean, and I understand the safety issue, and I would want the same thing if I worked in that area.
So when I come over, I go through the same process. I wait outside until they buzz me in.
I mean, it's sad we live in that kind of world now, but unfortunately, I mean, it's pretty much every office you go to. I mean, 20 years ago, you could walk into any courthouse, you know, in Pennsylvania, you just walk right in. Now there's no courthouse you can walk into anymore.
I was a little unclear on one thing. So the double doors that lead to the outside, can they get into the lobby area?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, because I was under the impression that Mr.
no,
McCarthy
in
couldn't
fact,
get in
one of
there.
the things that Cheryl does that Cheryl is a very kind and friendly person if you've ever come in the building. And rather than to use the intercom, Cheryl prefers to get up and actually open the door to talk to people. I think this is a welcoming thing. I'm not sure it's the best in terms of the security of the building. So,
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else want to speak on a non-agenda item?
Good evening. Marty Sloan, 227 Walnut Drive, Venice, PA, 15367. I'm here tonight to talk about this book that was featured prominently in our public library in the children's section. I have 3 young daughters who frequent that area, and they actually love these Wonder Books, which are read-along books. You can, press the button and it plays. The book is titled, It Feels Good to Be Yourself, a book about gender identity. And the book goes on to tell little kids that if they are born a boy or a girl, they can change anytime they want. They can be all genders. They can be no gender. It tells the story of Ruthie, who's a trans girl, and her friends are, a mix of people who are both a boy and a girl, or no gender at all. There's one particular page in here, if I can find it. That says, when you're born, we just guess what gender you are. We don't really know. And at some point, you'll figure it out when you can speak, and you'll tell your parents. I'm greatly offended by this material, mostly because from cover to cover, it's a lie. We should not lie to children. We should be compassionate, empathetic. We should teach our children kindness. All of those things are great. It should never come.
You want to be speaking to them?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I don't know.
I just happen to be the
Everybody is up
manager.
here.
They're the people actually.
Okay. Sorry about that. Should not come at the expense of teaching our children the truth. I did see a quote today from Pope Francis, which I thought was pretty appropriate. And, whatever your religion is, if you have any at all, you have to agree that the Pope is a world figure. He knows what's going on. He's got his finger on the pulse of things. And he says that gender ideology is the most dangerous ideological colonization that we face today. This is poison for children. We should not be featuring this material, in our public library. I understand that it's popular. Popularity does not make it proper. We need to educate our children well. The public library is, of course, not the public school, but for children, this is inappropriate. It's sexual in nature. It's targeted at kindergartners. And I'm here tonight for 2 reasons. To raise awareness about this book for those who don't know. I think you should know. and to ask for support for anybody who's here who agrees with me that we should not be featuring these books for children. I would like your help in whatever you can do to see that this book is removed from the library. I put in a request with the library, which they're addressing now, to see if they can take it off the shelf. They have to go through some kind of process with their internal teams, to decide what they're going to do with it. And I'll wait that process out. If they decide to keep the book, I can appeal it, and it'll go to the library board. I'll, of course, go and speak with them about that at that time if that happens. But I'm here to let you know about the book, and that as, a resident of the township, I think this is absolutely disgusting that we're featuring this kind of material for children. It's lies. We cannot lie to our children. It's nothing but destructive. That's my speech.
How did you find out about this book?
My wife goes there often. So she was there picking up books for the kids while they were at school, and she saw it and she texted me. And, there's a lot of books that are featured on the library website that I don't necessarily agree with ideologically. But I understand it's the public library. We have to have things for everybody. I'm not going to be in here causing a fuss about every book that I disagree with. I think this is special. If you do any research on this, there are a lot of kids that are being harmed right now by this material. They're having completely healthy body parts chopped off. They're being pumped full of poison. I know what feeds this book, all right? It's postmodernism and critical theory. I'm an engineer. I like to do my research. I like to understand how things work. This is like collegiate level stuff. It has no business in the kindergarten section, in the library. Sorry if I went off course there.
Yeah, but I'll speak out. I certainly don't disagree with your assessment. I don't agree with all of your thoughts about it.
Okay, fair enough.
Relative to the library's position on it, we don't really intervene with censorship relative to that, but I would have to speak out that I don't like the idea of the book.
What has been described is fairly accurate. There is a process in the library that was adopted by council by resolution that creates an appeal process for anybody who sees anything in the library that they find to be objectionable. And so that process involves filling out a form and explaining the concerns. That goes to the librarian, and then there's an appeal from whatever decision the librarian makes to the library board. And the way that process is outlined is that the decision of the library board on matters related to the collection is final.
So there's no appeal from that?
No.
Would you let me know when this goes in front of the library board?
Sure.
Do you know, did they give you a timetable for the first
30 days.
It's 30 days.
Yeah, it's 30 days.
Yeah.
But I can let you know.
I think we all would like to know.
Prior to the appeal process being, that we voted on, 18 months ago or so, was there any process before that?
There was a process, but I'll be honest with you, I don't know what it was.
What instigated them wanting to change that process?
Well, because one of the things that's occurring in libraries across the country is challenges to books, and the thought was that we ought to have a clear process that defines how that's going to be handled.
So was that thinking ahead of putting out books like this?
No, I don't believe that the collection of the library was influenced by the adoption of that policy.
No, I'm wondering if the policy was influenced by the planned collection.
No, the policy was influenced by the fact that if you watch the news, there are challenges to school and public libraries across the country, and there is, a recognition that there needs to be something in place so that there's a clear and articulated method by which these things are handled. That's why that policy was in place.
Again, thank you very much.
Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak on a non-agenda item?
Sorry, everybody, just
Go ahead, ma'am.
Katie Mucci, 130 Ammons Drive. A couple years ago, I had the unfortunate event of having a storm drain come through my yard, but Mark, I just want to shout you out. The way you handled it and your team handled it was amazing, and we're so happy with the way Peters Township handled the entire situation. Our whole front yard was torn up, but it's been a really great experience working with your team, so I just wanted to say thank you for all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name's Paul Watson again. And I was just texting my neighbor. He didn't get no notification. Now, I got another question. You can give me an answer. What is the, how many residents and in what perimeter does it have to send to? Because I'll go around to my neighbors tomorrow and the next day before the next hearing to make sure that it was done.
Our notification policy for land developments is 600 feet from the property perimeter. Obviously, depending on the size and proximity of properties around it, the actual number
Well, I
can
just talked
vary.
to him. He says, I got nothing. He asked his wife, they got nothing.
It would have been a while ago, I can tell you that. It would have been quite a while ago. Is when this approval process starts is when we send those notifications
So
out.
what's a while ago? Month, week?
Months ago.
Year?
Probably sometime around last summer, just off the top of my head. But
Yeah,
like I
we
said,
didn't receive nothing.
I hear you, Mr. Watson. I have a mailing list in my office with all of my projects. Let me check that in the morning, and I'll see what's going on.
So 600 feet from there.
Yes, sir.
So, but we'll be up here next 2 weeks, right? Thanks.
You're welcome.
Anyone else from the audience wish to speak? Seeing no one, we will move on to unfinished business. Approval for recording purposes of the Tuscany II preliminary subdivision plan is shown on drawings prepared by Victor Wetzel dated December 21st, 2022 for 339 Just About Land Company, LLC.
So 339 Just About Land Company is the owner of 32.4 acres parcel of land located at 339 Just About Road, and they're seeking preliminary plan approval for a 37-lot residential subdivision under the Conservation Residential Overlay. So when this was here for approval, there was concern expressed by Mr. Simmons about the proximity of a home that would be located near his peach orchards. And what the developer has voluntarily agreed to do is to create a temporary setback that would push the house at least 100 feet away from the property line and Mr. Simmons' orchard. Now, the intent is that this be a temporary setback, with the idea being that if this adjacent piece of property was no longer used as a peach orchard, that setback would disappear. So this is a preliminary plan. I think it calls it out properly. I think it'll be a bit better defined maybe as we get into the final plan. But I think it addresses Mr. Simmons' concern. I spoke with him on the phone about this, and he was happy with it. He was pleased with this as a solution.
So we've already approved this, right?
No, you tabled it. So there are 18 conditions that were recommended by the Planning Commission. In addition to that, there are 2 staff recommendations. One is that the proposed traffic circles within the development be replaced with raised intersection. The small traffic circles, our experience is that they don't work well, and the raised intersection, I believe, would actually work better. And there should be a condition that recognizing the voluntary offer of a 100-foot temporary agricultural setback to be incorporated into the final plan, as well as the deeds of the affected properties.
I think one other thing we didn't talk about was, I understand if he no longer farms that, but in the off chance that they do change the regulations, shorten the distance, and or change the pesticide use, and that should be something that would allow that maybe for an accessory structure or a swimming pool or something over there. So it may not just be the farming operations, anything that would negate that setback.
That's number 20, that's what you're saying?
Yes. So in my recommendation to council, I make reference to a planned date of December 21st. It really should be March 3rd because that's when that's the date of the plan that you're seeing here.
And this is the developer's plan, not the township's, in terms of requiring this.
All right, well, I'll make a recommendation that we approve for recording purposes the Tuscany II preliminary subdivision plan as shown on drawings prepared by Victor Wetzel dated
March 3rd,
2023 for the 339 Justified Land Company LLC, subject to the conditions proposed by the Planning Commission and the township staff. Which would
Second.
include these the 20 that are here.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. We'll move on to a new business. First thing is set a date for a public hearing for an ordinance amending the Peters Township Code of Ordinances, Chapter 440, zoning.
As discussed at the February 20th joint workshop between council and the Planning Commission, the Planning Department is recommending 3 changes to the zoning ordinance. These include a reduction in the maximum floor area ratio for mixed-use activity center from 1 to 0.85, the impact of which is to reduce the intensity of the allowed development in that zoning district. To eliminate the requirement in the mixed-use activity center that structures be located no further back than 25 feet along connector collectors and arterial roads. We think that it doesn't make sense to, particularly in areas where you have larger roads in that district, to pull the developments up to the road. And then finally, to repeal the requirement for 50% of all parking spaces required for new multifamily developments to be covered on 3 sides. So it's my recommendation that the council direct the manager to advertise for a public hearing for the purposes of accepting testimony, and that ad show that we potentially could be taking action. I'm suggesting April 24th for that hearing date. I'm also suggesting the council express its intent that the proposed ordinance have pending ordinance status.
So we're saying April 24th?
Mm-hmm.
At the regular council meeting.
Yes, I don't think, given the nature of the change.
Monday.
It's a regular council
Fourth
meeting.
Monday of April.
I'm not going to be here.
We'll miss you.
All right, does anyone want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item is approval for recording purposes of the Mikec Consolidation Plan as shown on drawings prepared by Windridge Engineering Company dated January 13, 2023 for Neil and Deborah Mikec.
So you've got 3 lots.
It's just a consolidation.
Yeah, the 3 lots along Venetia Road.
You're
They're
going to make them
condensed
into
into
2 or 1?
Give them a 1.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve for recording purposes the Mikec Consolidation Plan as shown on drawings prepared by Windridge Engineering Company dated January 13th, 2023 for Neil and Deborah Mikec, subject to the conditions recommended by the Planning Commission.
One second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item is site plan approval for the station warehouse project as shown on drawings prepared by Windridge Engineering Company dated December 28, 2022.
Normally, you would not see a site plan, but because of the nature of this use, it was required conditional use approval, which means as part of our process, it comes back to council for approval of the final site plan. So what this is a to be developed as a office warehouse. This is an idea of what that building's going to look like. It's a brick structure with a pitched roof. The site plan as drawn incorporates all of the conditions that were listed as part of the conditional use. On January 12th, the Planning Commission reviewed it, made a recommendation to council for approval subject to 15 conditions, and it's my recommendation that council approve the site plan subject to those conditions. Seth can answer any questions you might have in particular.
When I recall this having been presented to us to begin with, this was not going to be a in and out type operation, and is that concept altered in what is now before us?
Not at all. It's still very much a low traffic intensity use. The applicant's here tonight. He can talk a little bit more about the details if needed. But our expectation is very little in and outs of this facility.
Wasn't there a discussion at one point about whether this was going to be sprinkler, or am I thinking of the wrong building?
No, there
you're
was.
the same building.
I brought that up with the fire department. It is not required for this facility.
Well, this is just I'll make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second it.
For the station project as shown on the drawings prepared by Windridge Engineering dated December 28, 22, subject to the conditions that are set forth in there by the Planning Commission.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item is change orders relating to a contract with TBI for the construction of Fire Station Number 3.
I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kovats.
Good evening, Kyle. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. How's everybody?
Good. You enjoy the Princess Ball?
It was wonderful.
Good.
It was wonderful. Did your daughters enjoy
Yes,
it?
they did. It was wonderful.
Good. You see before you a memo from myself from March 7th regarding 6 change order requests from TBI for work done at the fire station. In that memo, I highlight 2 of them that we, as well as the architect, feel are reasonable to approve because we did in fact request that work to be done. I mentioned in that memo that the other 4 were done prior to the change order requests being given to the township, and no approval from the township that work be done. Therefore, we don't believe that we have an obligation to pay for that work. You'll see the 2 items that we do approve are the installation of the concrete curbs on the southern side of that site. Obviously, with fire trucks and larger equipment, having a more sturdy concrete curb as opposed to an asphalt wedge will help protect landscaping and vehicles. And then also the 50,000 cycle springs for the garage doors. 100,000 cycle springs were unavailable due to supply chain issues. That's the best they could do. And so they are providing a $500 credit to the township. We're saying that we accept that. So I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
I think the important thing to note is that if you look at the total value of the change orders, they'll now have totaled $78,106, and that's just about 2% of the original contract price. So,
Are they conceding the ones that we're rejecting?
No.
Not to this time.
So theoretically, it could be more money if they sued us.
Yes, that's correct.
So you do not get a final release from the contractor based on the issuance of this change order?
No, we'd be issuing the release once substantial completion is completed, and they've completed all the necessary work that needs to be done.
I was more inclined to get a release from the contractor that he's been paid in full.
Oh, and there will be that before this contract is closed out. So,
in a perfect world, the change order requests would have come before you would have approved, and then the work would have been completed or not completed, depending on council's decision. But TBI decided to move ahead with that work prior to approval.
Do we think that we have any implicit action from someone in the fire department authorizing or verbally directing a preference?
You got what? You got an increase in asphalt paving costs, painting of exposed plumbing pipe at Apparatus Bay.
The hanging of that pipe.
Hang all pipe below ceiling. Where was the pipe supposed to be then?
Originally, the pipe was supposed to be above the PVC ceiling, but the plumber said it would be easier based on the style of the PVC ceiling to hang it below as opposed to trying to conceal it above the apparatus bay.
Wouldn't that mean it would be cheaper?
There's an argument to make for that.
it's a trade-off because at that point then you have all these places where it makes it more difficult putting the ceiling in place. But this is, to me, this is a question of how the contractor chose to do the job as opposed to us directing it to be that way. There is, unlike the paving contracts that have asphalt escalators, there is no asphalt escalator in this contract. So whatever you bid is it. That's it.
So if you take the asphalt out, you're looking at roughly, what, $26,000? That we're not reckoning, right? 13, 2, 4, 12.
About 30,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'll be back.
Yeah, I'm sure he will be back. But if we didn't ask for this upgrade, I don't see why we should be paying for it. I mean, does it save us maintenance costs anyway? Will it be easier to fix these pipes and having to go later and cut holes in the ceiling or anything like that?
No,
So there's no benefit to us.
No, it's just a method of construction. I don't think
it costs $30,000 more. Okay, all right. I'm just asking. I mean, if there was some long-term benefit to us, maybe there's an argument that we should, at least meet them halfway. But if there's not, then there's no reason.
I'll move that we approve change order number 6 and change order number 10 related to the construction of fire station number 3 in the amount of $5,000. I guess that would be the net amount of $5,537.68, because one of them's giving us a credit.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Payroll and bills. In Dr. Porosco's absence, I reviewed the payroll and bills today. I found them to be in order, and I move they be approved as submitted.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. No correspondence this evening, Mr. Lauer?
No.
Anyone want to discuss any of the various board or committee minutes? Hearing nothing, we will move on to miscellaneous. The zoning hearing board report. Anything we need to discuss, Seth?
We did variances about 2 years ago at 4100 Washington Road. The piece of property situated between McMurray Shops and Lakeside Plaza, those white houses on 19. The property has since changed hands. Those variances have expired. We're going back through the variance process to get increased setback off of 19 so we can facilitate the cross-access connection that was established when McMurray Shops was developed. So we're working through the zoning hearing board process later this month. And then we have a detached garage that's requesting a 5-foot side yard setback variance.
That's it.
Those are the 2 items for this month. Yep.
Okay, next is set date for fire station number 3 ribbon cutting.
I think Mr. Steigel had a really good idea. That is to try to do the ribbon cutting prior to a meeting. So you can do it the first meeting in April, the second meeting in April. If we're going to wait for the second meeting in April, you might want to wait to the first meeting in May, because then you'll have the new fire truck as well as the fire station.
I'd rather do it in May, because I don't think I'm going to be at that second meeting.
So it'll be, what, May 8th?
Yeah.
So you can do it then. May 8th work for everybody?
As far as I can tell at this point,
Yeah.
As far in advance, yes.
If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
And I should tell you, the fire station is now occupied, and they're responding to calls out of the fire station.
They're getting a lot of positive feedback on the looks of it, the final product there, which I haven't driven by in months, so I'll have to take everybody's word for it.
Well, you know what, and what's actually kind of interesting, they're being welcomed by that community down there. There are people stopping into the fire station and thanking them for being there, commenting about the positive nature of the station itself. So that's good.
All right, so what time do we want to set that for then, on the 8th?
I leave it up to you. I think it could be 6 o'clock. It could be 6:30. Because all we're talking about doing is a photo. I mean, there's not really nothing much beyond that. If we do it at 6 o'clock, it'd be a chance to walk through the station.
Yeah, 6.
We can make sure that people have something to eat since we're coming straight to the meeting.
6 sound good for everybody?
Yeah.
All right, May 8th at 6 p.m. Anything anybody wants to see on the next agenda?
Oh, before you get there,
Whoops. Oh, someone else?
Mark wants to give you some bad news.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for the introduction. This is just like a total heads up. A lot of our neighboring communities have already bid out their road program, and probably don't have to tell anybody this, but prices are extremely high this year. So we are out to bid with the resurfacing program and the Longview Drive project. We're going to take bids on the same day. Both of those projects are coming out of the same fund, so we'll know exactly what our total cost is there. And those are kind of our two non-negotiable projects this year. We always have the rejuvenator that we try to do, and maybe a crack sealing program if we have the money left. So, we're going to see what bids come in like, but I just don't want anybody to fall off their chair in the first meeting in April when we come to you with the prices, because we're seeing very high prices this year. And I think it's a combination. Not only are materials through the roof, but there's labor shortages, and there's kind of a lack of competition. One of our neighboring communities only got one bid for their
Holy
paving
cow.
program, so it's a weird atmosphere right now.
Oh, wow.
That's all I want to say.
That's it.
Well,
Anything else under miscellaneous? I'm sorry, I skipped ahead there. Anything anybody wants to see on the next agenda? Mr. Smith, where are we at with the tax sale with our friends on Center Church Road?
But the last I heard from them, and I think Seth or Ed have more contact with the lawyer that's representing those people, is that they had reached out to him again, Seth.
Yep.
And then from there, I haven't heard back.
We've been told that the current residents of the property, who have moved to the gray house, but in regard to the white house, have found the information necessary to open up the estate to get the properties in the right hands. But that's the last we heard, and it's been a couple weeks on that, and we're not getting as much momentum as we'd like to see. We do have a magistrate hearing coming up later this month, so we can hopefully get some more progress before then. We've been reaching out to their attorney. We've had mixed results. I don't think it's necessarily the attorney. I think it's his clients aren't producing those things as quickly as we'd like, but we can certainly keep council updated as things move along.
All right, thanks, Seth.
Yeah.
All right, I think we are done. We have an executive session.
Yes, we do.
We are adjourned.